Well, point 3 in your notes, Edom, the graduate of the school of pride. Let's talk about why Edom had so much problems. The Edomites, the people that live in the city of Petra, the city of Mount Seir, the Temanites as they're called. There was first of all an old problem of bitterness with Edom. And let me just read to you. There was an animosity between the Edomites and Israelites, and it's one of the oldest examples of discord in human relationships. The conflict began in Genesis 25. Do you remember? When Jacob and Esau were born, what was happening? They were tussling and wrestling in the womb, and they were, one of them stuck their hand and pulled and pushed, and they finally came out, and God gave a prophecy. And he said, 2 nations are in your womb, and two peoples are within you, and the elder shall serve the younger. God said that at birth. I mean, God, before Jacob and Esau were born, had already chosen Jacob. You know why? To show his sovereignty, that the choice was his. It wasn't based on how people act. And that dispels the idea that God has a camera and he's looking down the road and he's got this kind of football playback and he's going to play our life back and see if we're going to pick Christ and then he elects us to salvation. That's not what the Bible teaches. The Bible teaches it's entirely God's choice. Entirely. I know, it kind of makes you feel uneasy, doesn't it? We can't explain it. Paul couldn't even explain it. Paul just stated it. He couldn't explain it. Moses couldn't understand it. God just picks. And how thankful we are, unworthy as we are, that he picked us. Well, as we already said, Edom refused to let the Israelites pass through in Numbers 20. But God, in spite of that, told them in Deuteronomy 23 not to hate the Edomites. But hostility developed and continued for centuries. Saul had run-ins in 1 Samuel 14 with the Edomites. David had run-ins in 2 Samuel 8 with the Edomites. Joab, the general of David's army, in 1 Kings 11 had run-ins with the Edomites. Solomon, in 1 Kings 11, had battles with the Edomites. All of them fought with the sons of Edom. Jehoshaphat of Judah and Joram of Israel joined with Edom to attack against Moab. But Jehoshaphat's reign, Edom came back with the Ammonites and fought against Israel. In the late 6th or early 5th century BC, the Nabateans from northern Arabia, up in Saudi Arabia, worshippers of gods and goddesses of fertility and the celestial bodies, drove out the Edomites. The few who were left in Edom were absorbed by the Nabatean Arabs. The Nabateans were the ones who carved Petra. They expelled the Edomites, and they settled in a little part called Idumea of Judea, of southern Israel. There, they were subdued by John Hyrcanus, a Maccabean. This is all between Malachi and Matthew. Forced them to be circumcised and to follow Judaism. And Herod the Great, the king of Judea, was an Edomite, Idumean, who was brought in and conquered the throne of Israel, or of Judah. The Idumeans joined the Jews in their rebellion against Rome in AD 70, and finally the Romans destroyed the last Idumean and Edomite. The problem they had, and in your notes you see, they had a false security. And if you look at back to Obadiah, I want to show you real quickly from the text one of the problems that Edom had. It says that they, verse 3, thought that they were secure in the loftiness of their dwelling place and in the clefts of the rock. So they had this false security. They thought that because they had a nation, by the way, if you get to Petra, it gets down so narrow, it's only between 8 and sometimes 6 feet wide, and the walls go straight up hundreds of feet like this, so that one child with a rock can stand up there on top and just look for a caravan and throw that rock, and that becomes as deadly as a missile when it lands way down below. And so a handful of defenders could defend the entire entrance to the city of Petra, the capital of the Idumeans or the Edomites. And so they were very, very much secure in their security of this place. By the way, Petra wasn't discovered until the year 1812. And when they got there, the archaeologist that discovered it was overwhelmed when he saw the grandeur, that the treasury. That's the first building you see when you come in. The rocks go like this, and all of a sudden when you look through there, framed by those rocks is this beautiful. It's what's in the last Indiana Jones movie. You can see it. That's where the Crusade people are supposed to be hiding. But you can see it carved out of the rock. And that's just the beginning of what the city looks like, and it stretches on for a couple of miles from there. But secondly, they also had a problem not only with false security, but they had a false sense that they were very wise. If you remember, Eliphaz, the foremost of Job's friends, was a Temanite. That means he was from Edom. So there really were some wise people back then. But they had begun to believe that they were wise beyond their measure and didn't realize that wisdom comes from God.